For 8 minutes, the sky rained steel, and the siege was over. Khe Sanh-Vietnam. January 1968, the most brutal siege of the war. 6,000 Marines, surrounded by 20,000 North Vietnamese Army troops. For 77 days, the enemy pounded the firebase. Mortars, rockets, artillery, day and night. No rest, no relief. The Marines were running out of time, running out of supplies, running out of hope. Then, on February 23, 1968, at 600 hours, something happened that changed everything. For 8 minutes, American artillery unleashed hell. 12 firebases, 6 warships, 105 howitzers, all firing at once. 1,043 shells in 8 minutes. The barrage was so intense, seismographs in Japan registered it as an earthquake. When it stopped, the siege was over. This is the story of Operation NIAGARA, the artillery barrage that turned the tide. The 8 minutes that saved 6,000 lives. Khe Sanh Combat Base, northern South Vietnam, 5 miles from the Laotian border, 15 miles from the DMZ. It wasn't supposed to be important. It was a hilltop outpost, a place to watch enemy movements, a forward listening post. But in late 1967, U.S. intelligence started seeing something alarming. North Vietnamese Army units were massing around Khe Sanh, thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands. General William Westmoreland, commander of U.S. forces, made a decision. Hold Khe Sanh. Make it a fortress, force the enemy to attack, and destroy them with firepower. It was a gamble, a huge one. On January 21, 1968, the NVA attacked. The siege began. For the first week, it was hell. Constant bombardment. Marines huddled in bunkers, eating cold sea rations, drinking water that tasted like dirt, praying the next shell wouldn't land on them. Captain Mike Anderson commanded Alpha Company, 1st Battalion, 180 Marines. Their sector, the southwest perimeter. How long can we hold? His executive officer, Lieutenant Dave Chen, asked on day 5. Mike looked at the cratered landscape, at the exhausted men, at the dwindling ammunition stockpiles. As long as we have to, Mike said. But privately, he wasn't sure. The NVA had them surrounded, cut off from ground resupply. Only helicopters could get in, and enemy fire made that a suicide mission. They were slowly being strangled. By February 20th, the situation was critical. Ammunition dangerously low, food running out, water rationed, casualties mounting. Mike stood in the command bunker, looked at a map covered in red marks, enemy positions, mortar pits, artillery batteries. We need air support, Dave said. Big time. We've been getting air support, Mike said. Hasn't been enough. Then we need something bigger. Mike stared at the map, at the ring of enemy forces surrounding them. Yeah, he said quietly. We do. 300 miles south at MACV headquarters in Saigon, General Westmoreland was planning something unprecedented. He called it Operation NIAGARA, named after Niagara Falls. Because like the falls, it would be an overwhelming torrent. Unstoppable, devastating. The concept was simple. Coordinate every available artillery piece, every bomber, every naval gun, and unleash them simultaneously on enemy positions around Khe Sanh. Not for hours, not for days, for minutes. A concentrated barrage so intense that nothing could survive it. We're going to hit them with everything we have, Westmoreland told his staff. All at once, maximum effect. Sir, coordinating that many fire missions at once. Colonel James Warren hesitated. It's never been done. Then we'll be the first. The planning took days, calculating firing solutions, coordinating timing, making sure American shells didn't land on American positions. 12 fire bases in the region, each with multiple howitzers, 6 warships offshore, USS New Jersey, USS Missouri, 4 destroyers, naval guns ranging from 5-inch to 16-inch, B-52 bombers on standby, arc light strikes to follow the artillery, and in the center of it all, Fire Support Coordination Center, the nerve center that would orchestrate the entire operation. Major Tom Harris was the fire direction officer, the man who would call the shots, literally. "We have one shot at this," Westmoreland told him. 8 minutes. Make them count. Tom looked at the firing charts, at the calculations, at the sheer number of shells that would be in the air simultaneously. "Sir, if we do this right, we'll be firing over 1,000 shells in 8 minutes. That's unprecedented. That's the point. And if something goes wrong, if shells land short, on our own men," Westmoreland met his eyes, "then we lose. But if we don't try, we lose anyway. Those Marines at Khe Sanh are running out of time. This is their only chance." Tom nodded. "Understood, sir. We'll make it work." February 22nd, 1968. 2300 hours, the night before the barrage. At Khe Sanh, the Marines didn't know what was coming. Command had kept it secret, too risky to broadcast, too easy for the enemy to intercept. Mike Anderson walked the perimeter, checked on his men. They were exhausted, filthy, but still fighting. "Captain," one of his Marines, Corporal Danny Foster, approached. "Is it true? We're getting a big airstrike tomorrow?" "Where'd you hear that?" "Scuttlebutt. Everyone's talking about it." Mike considered lying, decided against it. "Yeah, something big. That's all I know." "How big?" "Big enough to matter." Danny nodded, looked out at the darkness, at the enemy positions. "Good, because I don't know how much longer we can hold." "We'll hold," Mike said. "We always do." But he wondered if he believed it anymore. Meanwhile, 300 miles away, Tom Harris sat in the Fire Support Coordination Center. Maps everywhere, radios crackling, officers running calculations. "Final firing solutions are locked in," an artillery captain reported. "All batteries report ready." Tom checked his watch. Show 5:30 hours, 30 minutes to sunrise, 30 minutes to the barrage. "Notify all stations," Tom said. "Operation NIAGARA commences at 600 hours. All batteries will fire on my mark, not before, not after. Simultaneous impact is critical." "Yes, sir." Tom looked at the map, at the red circles marking enemy positions, at the blue square marking Khe Sanh, 6,000 Marines, waiting, hoping, not knowing that in 30 minutes the world would explode. "Let's bring them home," Tom whispered. 600 hours, February 23rd, 1968. At Khe Sanh, Mike Anderson was in the command bunker, drinking bad coffee, staring at maps. The radio crackled. "All Khe Sanh units, this is fire support control. Danger close fire mission inbound. Stay in bunkers." I repeat, stay in bunkers. Mission commences in 60 seconds. Mike grabbed the handset. "Fire support. This is Alpha Actual. What kind of fire mission?" "The big one, Alpha Actual. Trust us. Stay down." Mike keyed, the company net. "All Alpha units, get in your bunkers now. Incoming fire support. Everyone stays down until I give the all clear." "Incoming," Dave said. "Our own?" That's what they said. 60 seconds. 50, 40. At Fire Support Coordination Center, Tom Harris stood in front of a room full of radio operators. "All batteries," Tom said into the microphone. "Stand by, fire mission, target enemy positions, grid coordinates already transmitted. All batteries will fire simultaneously on my mark. 30 seconds. Load and aim. 20 seconds. 105 howitzers across 12 firebases pointed at the sky. Gunners made final adjustments. 10 seconds. 6 warships offshore trained their guns. 5-inch, 8-inch. The massive 16-inch guns of the USS New Jersey. 5 seconds. Tom looked at his watch, took a breath. All batteries, fire. 105 howitzers fired at once. The sound was apocalyptic. At Firebase Kates, 15 miles from Khe Sanh, 4 155mm howitzers fired simultaneously. The ground shook. The concussion knocked dust from the ceiling. At Firebase Russell, 6 100mm howitzers roared. Shell casings ejected, gun crews already loading the next round. At Firebase Erskine, Firebase Neville, Firebase Cameron, Firebase Argonne, all firing, all at once. Offshore, naval guns thundered. The USS New Jersey's 16-inch guns sent shells weighing as much as a Volkswagen screaming inland. In the sky, 155 artillery shells arced toward Khe Sanh. Flight time, 45 seconds. At Khe Sanh, Mike heard it first. A sound like distant thunder, growing louder, closer. "Everyone down," he yelled. The first shells hit. The world exploded. The barrage was precise, calculated. Every shell aimed at specific enemy positions. But from the ground, it looked like the end of the world. Artillery shells detonated in sequence. Fire, smoke, shrapnel tearing through the jungle. Enemy mortar positions obliterated. Enemy artillery batteries destroyed. Enemy supply dumps vaporized. Mike Anderson crouched in his bunker. The walls shook. Dirt rained from the ceiling. "Jesus Christ," Dave yelled over the noise. "How many guns are firing?" "All of them," Mike shouted back. At Fire Support Coordination Center, Tom Harris watched the clock, minute 2. "All batteries continue fire. Adjust 050, left 200. The gunners adjusted. Fired again. Another wave of shells. 155 more. The coordination was perfect. Shells landing in precise patterns, walking across enemy positions like a deadly grid. An artillery captain ran up to Tom. "Sir, we're tracking over 300 shells in the air right now. 300, simultaneously." "How's the spacing?" "Perfect. No overlaps, no shorts. Keep it going." Minute 2 became minute 3. The barrage didn't slow, didn't stop, just kept coming. At NVA headquarters, 3 miles from Khe Sanh, Commander Nguyen Van Tao watched his positions disappear. "Report!" he yelled into the radio. Static. Then a panicked voice. "We're being destroyed. Artillery everywhere. We can't." The transmission cut off. Tao grabbed another radio. "3rd Battalion, status!" No response. "5th Battalion." Nothing. His positions were being erased, one by one, systematically. He'd never seen anything like it. Minute 3 became minute 4. "Increase fire rate," Tom ordered. "All batteries, maximum sustained fire." The gun crews had been firing every 45 seconds. Now they accelerated, every 30 seconds. The barrage intensified. At Firebase Kates, gunners worked like machines. Load, aim, fire, load, aim, fire. Shell casings piled up. The gun barrels glowed red-hot. Crew chiefs doused them with water to prevent overheating. "Keep firing," the battery commander yelled. At sea, USS New Jersey's main guns thundered again. Each 16-inch shell carried 2,700 pounds of high explosive. Each one obliterated everything within 100 yards. The New Jersey fired 8 shells in minute 4, 8 massive impacts that registered on seismographs. At Khe Sanh, Mike risked a look outside. The jungle around the firebase was on fire. Smoke everywhere. Trees shattered. The ground cratered. Sir! A Marine ran up. The enemy mortars stopped! They're not firing anymore! Mike listened. The Marine was right. For the first time in weeks, no enemy fire. They're dead, Mike said. Or running? Dave looked out. How long is this barrage lasting? I don't know, but I hope it never stops. Minute 4 became minute 5. 527 shells fired, 527 impacts. The math was staggering. Commander Tao made a decision. All units, he said into the radio, fall back, retreat to secondary positions, now! His officers stared at him. Sir, we can't. That's an order, fall back! The NVA forces started retreating, not running, not panicking, but pulling back in organized fashion, away from the artillery, away from the death. But the artillery followed them. Tom Harris watched the reports coming in. Enemy movement detected, adjusting fire. All batteries, shift fire 200 meters north. The barrage shifted. Shells that had been hitting fixed positions now landed on moving troops. NVA soldiers dove for cover. But there was no cover. The shells found them anyway. Minute 5 became minute 6. 715 shells fired. At Khe Sanh, the Marines started cheering. They couldn't help it. Get some, Danny Foster yelled, watching the distant explosions. That's for every mortar round they dropped on us, another Marine shouted. Mike didn't cheer. He just watched, calculating, thinking. This was the moment, the turning point. He could feel it. The enemy was breaking. Minute 6 became minute 7. All batteries, prepare for final salvos, Tom ordered. This is it! Maximum fire! The gun crews gave everything they had left. Every howitzer fired as fast as humanly possible. Load, aim, fire, 3 times in 60 seconds. The barrage reached its peak. 198 shells in minute 7, the most intense minute of artillery fire in the history of warfare. At NVA positions, there was nothing left, just craters, fire, smoke. Entire battalions had been wiped out, supply dumps destroyed, artillery silenced. Commander Tao sat in his command bunker, listening to the radio, hearing reports of devastation. He'd lost half his force in 7 minutes. Sir, should we counterattack? An officer asked. Tao looked at him. With what? We have nothing left. Minute 7 became minute 8. Final salvo, Tom yelled. All batteries fire for effect. The last wave, 128 shells. They hit enemy positions that were already destroyed. Just to be sure. At 0608 hours, the barrage stopped. 8 minutes, total, 1,043 shells fired. Silence fell over Khe Sanh. After weeks of constant bombardment, the quiet was deafening. Mike stepped out of his bunker, looked around. The jungle was gone, replaced by a moonscape of craters and fire. Sir, Dave said quietly. They stopped firing. Yeah. The enemy. They're not shooting anymore. Mike realized Dave was right. No mortars, no rockets, no artillery. For the first time in weeks, silence. Did we win? A Marine asked. Mike didn't answer right away. He just stared at the devastation. Yeah, he said finally. I think we did. At Fire Support Coordination Center, Tom Harris sat down. Exhausted, an artillery captain approached. Sir, we're getting reports from Khe Sanh. Enemy fire has ceased. The siege, it's over. Tom nodded slowly. Casualty reports? Minimal. A few wounded from debris, but no KIA. We didn't hit any friendly positions. And the enemy? Estimates are... The captain paused. Conservative estimate, 2,000 KIA, possibly more. We destroyed multiple battalions. Tom closed his eyes. 2,000 lives. gone in 8 minutes. "Sir," the captain said. "You okay?" "Yeah," Tom said. "Just processing." "Sir, you saved Khe Sanh. 6,000 Marines are alive because of what you did." Tom looked at the maps, at the red circles marking enemy positions. Most of them crossed out now. "We all did it," Tom said. "Every gun crew, every fire direction officer, every radio man. It was a team effort." "Yes, sir, but you called the shots." Tom stood up, walked to the map, stared at Khe Sanh. "How's the resupply situation?" "Helicopters are already inbound. The LZ is clear, for the first time in weeks." "Good. Get them food, water, ammo, everything they need." "Yes, sir." Tom turned away from the map. 8 minutes. That's all it took. 8 minutes to end a siege that had lasted weeks. 8 minutes that would be studied in military academies for decades. 8 minutes that proved overwhelming firepower, properly coordinated, could break any enemy. The siege of Khe Sanh officially ended on April 8, 1968. But the real turning point was February 23rd, the 8-minute barrage. After Operation NIAGARA, the NVA never fully recovered their offensive capability around Khe Sanh. They tried smaller attacks, probes, but nothing like the sustained siege. The Marines held, resupplied. Eventually, the base was abandoned for strategic reasons, but it was never overrun. Mike Anderson and Alpha Company rotated out in March. 180 Marines went in. 162 came out. 18 KIA, but considering the odds, it was a miracle anyone survived. At the debriefing, a general asked Mike, "What was the turning point? When did you know you'd win?" Mike thought about it. "February 23rd, sir. 600 hours, when the sky started raining steel." "Operation NIAGARA." "Yes, sir. That barrage. I've never seen anything like it. 8 minutes, and when it stopped, the enemy was gone. It was the largest coordinated artillery strike in the war," the general said. "Maybe in any war. It saved our lives, sir." The general nodded. That's what it was designed to do. For Tom Harris, the recognition came later. Silver Star. For exceptional leadership under fire. For coordinating the impossible. But Tom didn't feel like a hero. He felt like someone who'd done his job. 1,000 shells in 8 minutes? A reporter asked him. "How did you coordinate that?" "Math," Tom said simply. "And trust. Trust that every gun crew would do their job perfectly. Because one mistake, one shell landing short, and Marines die." But there were no mistakes. "No," Tom said. "There weren't, because everyone knew what was at stake." Years later, artillery officers would study Operation NIAGARA, the firing charts, the coordination, the timing. It became a textbook example of fire support done right. 1,043 shells, 8 minutes, 0 friendly fire casualties. Perfect execution. In 2005, Mike Anderson attended a Khe Sanh Veterans Reunion in Washington, D.C., 500 former Marines. All survivors of the siege. They shared stories, memories, the kind only people who'd lived through hell together could understand. An older man approached Mike. Gray hair, glasses, looked familiar, but Mike couldn't place him. "Captain Anderson?" the man said. "That's me. Do I know you?" "Not personally, but I know you. I'm Tom Harris. I was the fire direction officer for Operation NIAGARA." Mike's eyes widened. You were the one who called the barrage?" "Yes." Mike grabbed his hand, shook it hard. "You saved my life. You saved all our lives." Tom smiled. "I was just doing my job." "Your job?" Mike laughed. "You coordinated the most insane artillery strike I've ever seen. 1,000 shells in 8 minutes? That's not a job. That's a miracle." It was a team effort. Yeah, but you were the conductor. And that symphony, that beautiful, deadly symphony, it ended the siege. They sat down, talked for hours about the planning, the execution, the aftermath. I've always wondered, Tom said. What was it like? On the receiving end? I saw it from the fire support center. Dots on a map, numbers on charts. But you were there. Mike thought about it. It was the loudest thing I've ever heard, and the most beautiful. Because every explosion, that was one less enemy shell landing on us. That was hope, in the form of high explosives. Tom nodded slowly. We fired so many shells, seismographs in Japan thought it was an earthquake. I believe it. The ground didn't stop shaking for 8 minutes. Any regrets? Tom asked. About the war? About Khe Sanh? Mike considered that. I regret the men we lost, the 18 from my company, the hundreds across the base. But do I regret holding that firebase? No, we did our job, and you did yours. And because of that, most of us came home. They stood up, shook hands again. Thank you, Mike said, for those 8 minutes. Thank you, Tom said, for holding the line until we could help. 2 old warriors, connected by 8 minutes of artillery fire 40 years ago. Mike Anderson passed away in 2015, 86 years old, surrounded by family. At his funeral, they played taps, folded the flag, honored a Marine who'd held the line at Khe Sanh. Tom Harris spoke at the service, told the story of Operation NIAGARA, of the 8 minutes that ended a siege. Mike once told me, Tom said, that February 23rd was the day he knew they'd survive. Not because the enemy gave up, but because we showed them overwhelming force. We showed them that America protects its own, with everything we have. He paused. 1,043 shells, 8 minutes, and a siege was over. That's the power of coordination, of teamwork, of soldiers doing their jobs perfectly when it matters most. On Mike's headstone, they inscribed one line. He held the line at Khe Sanh, and the artillery answered. And in military academies around the world, they still teach Operation NIAGARA, the 8-minute barrage that proved firepower, properly applied, can break any siege. The 1,000 shells that saved 6,000 lives. The moment when the sky rained steel, and the enemy finally understood they couldn't win. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the power of coordination, the impact of overwhelming force, and the moments when everything changes in minutes, hit that like button. These stories deserve to be told. These moments deserve to be remembered. Subscribe for more untold stories from Vietnam.